Hey everyone, it's Daddy Janjo from the Janjo Zone here to do a video I've been kind of wanting to do for a while. This is a more candid, non-scripted format video in similar fashion to my Pharaoh Servant video I did about a year ago, so it's really about time I did this. So this time I want to talk about the first set of 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh! And the TCG Yugioh in general, Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon. So that said, let's get started. But first, a word from our sponsor. This video is sponsored by Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Experience Japan from the comfort of your own homes through these amazing snack boxes. You got Tokyo Treat, which is a Japanese snack subscription box with limited and seasonal snacks that are only available for a limited time. This month's theme is Osaka Snackation. Fun fact, Osaka is Japan's culinary capital, and this month's box captures the sensation. Just ask Godzilla. Sakura Co. is an authentic Japanese snack box supporting local snack makers that include Japanese teas and tableware. The theme for this month is mochi and fruit marvels. Sakura Co. invites you to taste these delicacies and share them with friends and family, or even complete strangers. I'm just Daddy Janjo, but you do you. Make sure to use the code JANJO, not Janjo, Janjo, to help me with some kickback so I can continue making awesome Yu-Gi-Oh! Content and you get delicious snacks yourself. Alright, let's try this Shine Muscat Jelly. Take a look at this. Ooh. Looks like a booger. Anyway, Divosia. Next, let's try this Honey Apple Mochi. Sounds delicious. I love the packaging on this. So apparently this thing has edible wrapping paper? Interesting. Okay, it says ensuring your hands stay clean while you enjoy it. So, okay. This is very exciting. Watching me just eat food. You know, I know like sponsorships on this channel, kind of like a hot topic, especially Tokyo Treat, Sakura Co. But I gotta say though, I mean, if you're looking for some good food and good snacks to eat, like I'm telling you right now, like where do you want to get this stuff from? I mean, I get good stuff. If you eat good stuff and use my code JANJO, I get kicked back too. It's a win-win. Come on. I mean, where do you get all this fancy stuff in one place? You really don't. Even at Asian markets, you're probably paying like a fortune for all these snacks in bulk. But at least you get like specifically picked out things, which I think is really cool. It's thematic. Ooh, these I'm definitely excited for. These are chocolate bread bites. Looks like it has a bourbon flavor. Crack these open right now like a baked potato. Oh my god, bread bites need to be a more thing. Dunkin' Donuts near me has these like bagel bite things, like bagel balls with cream cheese filled in them. Oh my god, if these are anything close to that, I'm hyped. Alright, and the grand finale are these chocolate orange Kit Kats. Ooh, look at that. I mean, where can you go wrong? Where can you go wrong? Good to shit. Good to shit. So Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon, I think, might be the perfect start to 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh! I know it kind of has had a sort of bad name attached to it, given just all the kind of crap cards. Let's be honest, there's definitely a separation between the good and bad cards. Not all cards are created equal. But I think there's a lot to say about this set. Now, my first interaction with this set was in 2002. I don't believe it was my first Yu-Gi-Oh! Set. It was either this or Metal Raiders. I definitely recall pulling a Skull Red Bird in my first pack, which of a lot of the cards you could pull in this set, especially commons, Skull Red Bird should be the one you would want to pull. Is a 1550 attack monster, and at this point I did have starter deck Yugi, so I did have cards like Neo the Magic Swordsman and Great White and Dragon Zombie, so Skull Red Bird was outclassed pretty early on, but even still, there's still that divide between strong and weak monsters, and having something that's at least 1550, that extra 50 attack points, that can really go a long way, which made it very exciting for me to pull. Now, it'd be a while before I had more of an understanding of what exactly was in the set, because back in the day, I didn't go on the internet too often, and I didn't look up what cards were in what sets. I kind of had a general idea, or if I saw stuff from magazines, I'd kind of know. Like in the Pharaonic Garden, I definitely knew which cards were in there. I did a whole video talking about magazines and stuff from that. So I didn't really quite know, and I remember it was years later I found a copy of LOB at a Walmart. So I decided, yeah, I'll pick it up. It's a Yu-Gi-Oh pack, and I pulled absolute complete stinkers. It was probably stuff like Firegrass, 700 attack, 600 defense. And this is really what LOB is kind of known for, or at least half of it, are these really, let's call it like it is, unplayable cards. Hard Armor, 1200 defense, I mean, it could be worse, but it could certainly be better by many components. I mean, if you're building a warrior deck from this time, like a mono warrior deck, maybe. Some cards on here you had to use for fusions. Hinotama was a fusion material, but that's even if you're playing fusions. I mean, I can tell you, I certainly never pulled a polymerization in this set. First time I would get polymerization would be the starter deck, Joey and Pegasus. So the other cards this set is known for are really two other things. One would be more very anime cards. I mean, I have Rarities Black Dragon. The first time I saw this card, I was in a mall, little kid me, 8-9-year-old Janjo, saw this card in one of those like mall kiosks where they would sell all the cards. And back then, these were the rare cards. It's easy to kind of go spend $30 to pick them up now, but back then, like, these were the rare cards. You saw these and you're like, oh, Red Eyes Black Dragon, baby. Oh my. It is really cool to see. I mean, that's probably why I have such a fond memory of Red Eyes Black Dragon. And this would happen for a few sets. I'd go in a mall, in like a card store, and to see something that really left an impact with me. I definitely remember Gate Guardian, but we'll wait for that for the... if I do a following video on a different set, definitely let me know if you want to see more kind of stuff like this. And the other card this is known for, the set is known for, the other cards are the power cards. I mean, every set's going to have their own fair share of power cards. Like Dark Hole. Dark Hole you definitely want to get. This had the Exodia pieces, which you definitely wanted to get. I mean, let alone if you're able to build all of Exodia. That would have been absolutely the tits. The secret rares. Gaia the Dragon Champion. I had a friend that had this, and he actually gave it to me. Trihorn Dragon. I did have a friend growing up that had this card, and he never played it. I definitely remember him having, because I saw it high up on a shelf at one point, and I thought it looked really cool. A secret rare? You don't really saw those too often back in the day. Let alone a monster that's, by all means, pretty strong. It's not Blue Eyes, but if you're running just like a vanilla beatdown deck from the sealed-only schoolyard formats we would play, 2850, 2350 stats, it is respectable. Yeah, it's not Blue Eyes, but sometimes you didn't even have 3 Blue Eyes to play, so if you manage to pull that, and you would play it just because it's a secret rare. Blue Eyes really should have been a secret rare in this set. I think any cover card in a set should be the highest rarity, but for whatever reason, we just got an ultra rare Blue Eyes, which was cool, because the starter deck came out not too long after, so you had 2 arts to basically pull from. Same thing goes with the Dark Magician. Now, of course, I had the starter deck, Yugi, and thus I do have very fond memories of the original starter deck art. But when it comes to this art, when this was reprinted in the structure deck, was it Yugi Evolution, I believe? Yeah, or starter deck Yugi Evolution. I thought it was so cool that we were getting a reprint of the alt. For me, anyway, it was the alt art Dark Magician. And I thought that was pretty badass. So that leaves another impression of this card on my mind. Other power cards you can get here are all down here. And we already talked about polymerization. Should have been a common in this set. Actually, let's go back to that real quick. Polymerization should have been a common in this set, or at least a rare. I understand super rare because it is a big card. It does a lot in the sense that you need it for fusions. But if you're just starting this game up in the West, you need a better way for people to play this, to play fusions. And having one set include this card as a higher rarity card, that's just bullshit. I mean, come on. There's not even, like, great fusions to play aside from Gaia, if you even want to play that. But aside from that, you have to wait till Metal Raiders, and at that point, it was kind of too late for fusions, which I've talked a ton about fusions in other videos. Got Pot of Greed, draw 2 cards. This card was a rare. This should have been super rare. Poly should have been a rare. Right, Geki. I remember this one being, like, probably the big card for me in LOB. It destroys all monsters your opponent controls. It's better than Dark Hole. It does technically sort of more than Pot of Greed, at least if you're talking to an 8-year-old kid, than just drawing 2 cards. Activate that. Swords of Revealing Light, another great card. Great looking super rare. Anytime this card is in higher rarity, like anything foil, it tends to look really pretty. And then, yeah, there's just a lot of other cards. I mean, there's equip cards, and there are field spells, but they all kind of suck. You know, all I have just a measly 300 points. The starter decks would introduce the 400 boost, and it's a shame that that wasn't the start of equip cards. Like, the minimum threshold was 400, so that just makes way more sense. I think these would have been much more playable with just an extra 100. And they still kind of are if you're playing really old, like, LOB stuff. No, Dark Energy, I think it was called. Yeah, Dark Energy, here we go. So Dark Energy, yeah, it's only 300 attack, but you did have that threshold in LOB, and specifically, like, LOB format, where you had monsters that did have a bit higher than other things, like Fiends. You could run a card like Follow In to boost Skull Red Bird's attack. So Dark Energy, like, is another great card in relation to the monsters it can be used. You're not going to use Vile Germs in a really good plant deck because there's just no great plant decks. Also, Vile Germs is that's kind of a weird. That to me doesn't feel very planty. You know what I mean? You expect something that involves, like, roots or the sun or something, not Vile Germs. Like, what's the OCG name for this? Devil Germs. I don't get it. Fisher we're talking about real quick. This is another great card. Destroys a monster your opponent controls with the lowest attack. Sometimes it's a tie and you choose. Sometimes it's not a tie. Sometimes it's the only monster they have, and bing bang boom, they're dead. Great removal. Could be better, but the lowest attack, I guess they needed something with it. It couldn't have just been destroy a monster on your opponent's field. I know, crazy. The closest thing we would have to get to that, we would still have a drawback, like Tribute to the Doomed or Offerings to the Doomed a bit later. The field spells was another kind of a weird point of contention, because sometimes you could do some cool stuff with it. Sogen would probably be the big one. Wasteland's kind of cheeky. Like, there are monsters you can use with it, for sure. I mean, Yurubi from the set has 1500 attack. And then by the time the starter deck comes out, you get Dragon Zombie. Even by this set, you did have Giant Soldier of Stone, which they do gain defense. So you could use it Wasteland offensively or defensively. Because Giant Soldier of Stone was also a rare in this set. This Giant Soldier of 2000 defense. You did have good defenders in this set. There are not too many 1500 attackers. It's kind of Skull Red Bird, Yurubi, and then a couple others. Witty Phantom, another 1400. This is another one that I used with my Fiend Equip deck that I had in my Wheel of Duel series, in which that deck list is on my Patreon, so anyone wants to check that out. Wink, wink. Then you had Celtic Guardian with 1400, 1200. You know, very similar stats, very good. But it's also worked with Sogen, which increased Beast Beast Warrior and Warrior, not Beast types for some reason, because I want to save that for Forest. But this was another applicable strategy back then to use Celtic Guardian with Sogen, have a more field instead of using like Witty Phantom and like equip spells. Yami also worked too, because that increased Fiend and Spellcasters, which was also pretty useful, and it decreased Fairy monsters. which had its uses, because what fairy monster would you probably want to use this for? Well, I have one in mind. Spirit of the Harp. Spirit of the Harp, 2000 defense. Now you're looking at 1800 defense, which is a bit better to look at, especially if you're going out of your way to run a 1 tribute monster, in which the best one you could do in this set was Curse of Dragon with 2000 attack. So now you would be able to attack over Spirit of the Harp, which made Yami good. Really back in the day, back in Yu-Gi Kaiba historic format, a lot of people ran Fiend Spellcaster decks and cards like Yami and Equip Spells and pretty much anything they could get their hands on. Yami was more popular back then because people saw it as, hey, boosted my monsters. Nowadays, you don't see that too much for people playing this for their Neo or their Lojin because, well, most likely your opponent's playing the same thing and it's going to boost their cards too. But as a defensive option for sighting in against more stalled decks, which they're probably running Spirit of the Harp, it's great. Although you do have to watch out for Mystical Elf, which is also in this set, I do believe. Monster Reborn, revive a card. I don't need to say more about it. We have Monster Reborn, or excuse me, Mystical Elf does get that 200 boost. So you still have to. It's a take and give, but at least it lets you get over one thing, and then you can always destroy it by setting another field spell if you wanted. But Giant Soldier Stone is another defender. Yeah, this set had actually a lot of 2000 defense monsters, which seems kind of odd considering that this was definitely a high threshold at the time. It was very rare you had stuff that could beat over it. Anything that could beat over it had to be 2 tributes. It had to be Blue Eyes White Dragon, Dark Magician. Like, you needed 2 tribute monsters to attack over this, or some sort of other destruction, whether it was Dark Hole Raigeki or Fissure. Fissure was a good way to take care of these, mainly because they typically had low attack. Soldier Stone had the highest at 1300. It's all downhill from there. You had some other, like, weird cards in this set. Goblin Secret Remedy. Increase life points by 600. Very minuscule. Gravedigger's Ghoul was interesting. Banishes 2 monsters in your opponent's graveyard. This is kind of the first card that interacted with the banish zone. Unfortunately, there's really no great way to use this. If this was a quick play spell, I think it'd be significantly better. But unfortunately, quick plays did not exist in the game by this point, because you were able to essentially block Monster Reborn targets. But the issue was that Reborn can work on either graveyards, and typically your opponent had multiple options to choose from, and you can't respond to it with Gravedigger's Ghoul, and it's only 2 monsters. Like, the next set we would get Soul Release, which is like 3 times as better. And yeah, like the fusion monsters are just terrible. It's either Guy the Dragon Champion or something like Fusionist with very crap stats. Like, I don't know why they released so many bad ones. They should have released more with something akin to Metal Dragon, which had 1850 attack, and they should have had stuff that was like 1900 or in the like 2100 range, 2200. That would have been significantly better than what we got, which is unfortunate, because the thing with Blue Eyes White Dragon, which I understand, is that it isn't just a set Konami put together themselves per se. It is a combination of well, it's a reprint set from the OCG, Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon, the Japanese, which that in turn, you know, it's a reprint set of other cards like Phantom God. So they pretty much had these cards to pick from, aside from doing like ultra parallel rares, which would have been kind of nutty if we got an ultra parallel rare Red Eyes Black Dragon. I mean, can you imagine such high rarities at the time? It's a shame they didn't do something like that, but I understand. I mean, they also got Secret Rare Celtic Guardian. When it comes to trap cards, though, probably the only useful one that I can think of off the top of my head would be Trap Hole, which is a great card for early Yu-Gi-Oh! Just gets rid of summoned monsters with... Most of the time, it's something that you're able to get rid of because your opponent's mostly playing 1,000 more attack monsters. Even something like Giant Soldier Stone, it's good for poking into, unlike Mystical Elf, which may be a reason why you would run Mystical Elf. Trial of Nightmare was originally called Trial of Hell when it came out in first edition, so if you get a first edition card, it has a different name. I think that's kind of neat. So the thing with Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon is that while it's not the perfect set by any means, it does a lot in the game to really establish like a baseline. Like if you just got this set, you'd be able to pick up and play it with relative ease. There's not too much to overstimulate you in the game, but if you're just learning the game, it has basic stuff. You have a continuous trap. You don't have counter traps or quick play spells or continuous spells by this point. You have very basic fusions, very basic attackers, defenders, utility cards. And it's not just weak cards, you had power cards too. You had a clear separation between the good cards and the bad cards. So you playing, you can sort of get an understanding of how cards work, how cards interact with each other, how field spells work, how equip spells work, tribute summoning, what makes a good tribute, what makes a good fusion, what makes good attackers, defenders, what kind of play style you lean into. So all that said, honestly, Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon really is the perfect start to 2002 Yu-Gi-Oh! And it's such a weird set. I want to say it's my favorite set, but over time it does get more points for me for just everything it did, and just how aesthetically pleasing a lot of these cards are. I mean, I don't know, there's just something about Terror the Terrible, isn't there? This big Shrek-looking dude. I mean, he's known as a swamp dweller, I'm just saying. A minion of Dark Forces, is that Donkey? Maybe. A minion of Donkey Forces? I'd rather not think about it. Yeah, let me know what you think about Legend Blue Eyes White Dragon. What are some of your memories? What's your favorite cards? And let me know if you want to see more videos like this. So with that said, have a wonderful day.